And don't forget her foreign minister, my good friend Boris Johnson. Sorry, Boris, I think you're a very likable guy. However, come on, please don't ruin your country just for some idea you had that you might be prime minister one day.
So Michael, welcome back to the Geneva Studios.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
It's great to have you back. So today we're talking about CSR and the world economy. So first of all, has CSR taken a battering because of things like Donald Trump and also companies like Uber and Facebook?
Yes, I think it probably has this year. Don't forget, though, CSR has been around for dozens of years. And since I started working in the field 20 years ago, when just about none of the Fortune 500 companies would have heard of the expression corporate social responsibility or corporate citizenship or social responsibility or whatever. Today, just about all of them, you talk to them, they know about it and they're doing aspects of it. But this year, as you quite rightly said, has taken quite a battering, and from unlikely sources. For example, we see Apple and Facebook, and to a certain extent Uber, have been hacked by the Russians. Facebook and Apple, for instance, were providing negative propaganda, especially about the Democratic candidate last year in the American elections. Russia has been very active in putting forward negative images of people that they don't like, which seems to be just about anybody outside of Russia and even inside Russia, probably. And in fact, like it or not, Russia has been really successful in doing that, and the West and the East and so on have really been behind the curve on combating some of the damage that's been occurring. What's going on in the world? Well, with the president of the United States, even his foreign secretary, the head of state, a former Exxon CEO, allegedly called the new president a moron. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't be as nice.
Of course you wouldn't. So we've spoken about America.
Yeah.
So now moving on to the EU. So is the EU breaking up? It seems like there's been issues with Northern Ireland, with Catalonia, with the German elections, and also with, of course, the big B, which is Brexit. Is the EU breaking up? What do you think about that?
Probably not, because what happens is that countries tend to get together when there's an external force. So in many ways, the success of Russia, and to a certain extent, the success of China under Xi, is actually making the countries think, well, maybe we better stick together much more. However, that notion is maybe stuck in the Houses of Parliament or the various EU commissions and so on, but has it really got to the people of the countries who are thinking more about their own pockets? They're thinking worried about immigration and people taking their jobs and so on, and they're not so worried about the external threats. So I'm not sure that the EU will break up. I think the huge success of Macron in the French election, the rather surprising turnaround in Germany, with Merkel struggling to form a coalition. It looks like she's going to. She's a very adept person. And I think that's really important for the EU, that those two countries really pull together. And don't forget that the EU was set up originally to control Germany. It was, 5 or 10 years after the Second World War. It started off with the European Free Trade Zone and then the EEC, as you remember, and it's now expanded to 27 or 28 countries. Now, the case of Brexit, Catalonia, and now Northern Ireland, and possibly even Scotland. Now, what's going to happen there? I think actually what they want to do is to gravitate towards the EU. Catalonia doesn't want to leave the EU, although the EU said if you break away from Spain, you're going to have to. Northern Ireland certainly does not want to leave the EU. And in fact, there's been peace in Northern Ireland in the last 10 or 15 years after 400 years of the Troubles. And they love the freedom of movement across the border, and I think that's an entity. The problem in Scotland, well, it's unclear where they're going to go. Most people, if you ask them, and I've been asking Scots, so are you going to leave? And they say to me, no, I like Scotland. I'm going to stay here. No, I don't mean that. I mean, are you going to leave and join the EU, or are you going to stay with England? Mm-hmm. And when you put it like that, they say, well, we want to stay with the EU because that's important. England, yeah, we'd like to stay as well. Wales, of course, has got a tremendous amount of investment from the EU. Mm-hmm. If you travel around Wales, as I did earlier this year, you'll see lots of projects, road projects, especially from the European Investment Fund. Mm-hmm. So what's going to happen to all that? Well, as you know, I think Brexit is an absolute nonsense. The referendum was done to satisfy Cameroon and his cronies. Mm-hmm. There's also a hint of Russian interference there already in terms of how the money was handled, and that story is still really yet to come out. Today I read that even Corbyn finally is actually coming against Theresa May on the Brexit issue. Believe it or not, both May and Corbyn themselves personally actually voted to stay in the EU. But as politicians, well, which way is the wind going? And let's see what's going to happen there. But it looks like Corbyn has captured the wind better than Theresa May. And she's really, really struggling. The Irish question, again, don't forget, it's a coalition between her government and a very right-wing DUP in Northern Ireland. Mm-hmm. Now, if they start to worry about leaving Ireland and having what they call a hard border, that coalition could probably collapse. So she's worried about that. She doesn't actually know where to go. And don't forget her foreign minister, my good friend Boris Johnson. Sorry, Boris, I think you're a very likable guy. However, come on, please don't ruin your country just for some idea you had that you might be Prime Minister one day.
Fantastic. Well, Michael, thank you once again for coming in and sharing your insights with us.
Jessica, thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you.
Very welcome. Well, that's all from myself and Michael, but we want to hear how you found this interview, so drop a comment in the comment box below.